Cable 10, Aurora, Illinois Community Access Channel.
Let's get weird, buddy. Let's get weird.
Guys, where are we?
Well, if there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from.
Welcome to the Outer Rim.
Profiling, you
Enjoy
racist
your
assholes.
stay. All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is Rob here at Smirking Gun, and we're back talking Critical Role, except this time we're not talking about any actual play. We're not talking about Campaign 4 or any of the old episodes. We're talking about the brand new series based off of my favorite campaign, The Mighty Nein. It dropped the other night, in the middle of the night. I'm not surprised. I was bummed a little bit, not because it dropped, but because I wasn't ready. I was planning on doing all kinds of research. Like I'm on my third watch through of Campaign 2. So I was getting pumped for Thursday. And I'm still pumped for Thursday. But like dropping it now, like the first episode, I was like, oh shit, I'm running around, trying to get more details, stuff to write down, stuff to explain, stuff to figure out and how I want to present these videos. But running and working a full-time job, doing this kind of thing when I can, I'm happy that I'm just here doing it at all. I've watched this episode now on YouTube 3 times. I'm sure there's people that have watched it like 6, 7, 8 times by now. Just extrapolating every little thing out of this. But we're here talking about episode 1. When the new episodes drop, they'll drop all 3. Later this week, we'll talk about episodes 2 and 3 and probably work our way into talking about episode 1 in like hindsight a little bit. So if you like what we're doing here, and again, if you're not a subscriber, just become a subscriber. I'm a small channel. I've always been a small channel, but I like to see incremental growth in the things that I do. So if you aren't a subscriber, please subscribe, bell, notifications, share, all that stuff, because we're here for the long haul. We're also doing Campaign 4. Every episode of Campaign 4 so far. We're covering Pluribus on Apple TV. We're doing a whole bunch of stuff. But right now, it's time to focus. Focus on the Mighty Nein. So before we get started, let's just get the background out of the way. So the reason I even got into Dungeons and Dragons at all was by watching The Legend of Vox Machina. Season 1, when that first dropped. I had a friend who was always telling me that I need to watch Critical Role, and I'd seen it in my feed since 2015. Since it first came out, it was being recommended to me, but I didn't know what it was. I clicked on it and I just saw some people talking. I knew Ashley Johnson was on it, and that almost hooked me. But it was people sitting around a table, and I'd never played D&D. I thought D&D was like this ultra nerd level that I wasn't at. But when I watched The Legend of Vox Machina and got visual context for everything, figured out who the characters were, watched that first like thing with the Briarwoods, I was like, okay, now I know who these people are. I know who these characters are. I know the voices. I went back and it's history from then. I have devoured Critical Role, like just rah, 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 rah. I have been to 2 live shows this year, one in Chicago, one in New York. And I consume this stuff and eat it up, and I take notes and I buy everything, and I love it. It's not my whole personality or anything. It's kind of hard to not make a case for that because of how much I've learned to love this. And I love this because I found out that Dungeons and Dragons is like, I am that nerd. These are my people. Like the level of nerddom in a D&D game, I'm there. And I've finally found like my full community in D&D players and in these worlds where it is pure story. That was the thing that escaped me, was that Dungeons and Dragons is pure story happening now. You are making it up as you go. And that just drew me in. And it helped with Critical Role being all these fun voice actors. I learned how to play D&D through all these people. And I was watching Campaign 3 as it was happening. I was watching Campaign 1. I blew through that. And when I finished 1, I started on 2. And by the time I was done with my first watch of Campaign 2, I had ups and downs. Like I was always just like freaking out about, and I'd come tell my friend that got me into this, like, oh my God, I was mad sometimes, super happy sometimes. And once it was over, I immediately, almost immediately, like started finding reasons to go back and watch this episode or that episode until I just went, start from the beginning again. Because I love Campaign 2's characters. I love all the different campaigns. But Campaign 2's characters and the adventures that they go on are my favorite that they've done so far. Even counting, what they've done with Campaign 4. These characters I just love. Caleb and Nott and Bo are like my 3 favorite characters in Critical Role. I haven't done like a top. I was going to do like I've done a ranking before, but I haven't done a top of all the characters. But at least in Campaign 2, Beauregard, Caleb, Widowgast, and Nott the Brave are my 3 favorite characters on there. Now, Jester here, Matt, Jester's like this, she's almost on another level where I don't even know, like, I didn't feel bad not saying she's my favorite just because she is, as they say in the ad, she's chaos incarnate. If you don't like Jester, that's fine. But they've had 3 seasons of Vox Machina, and I think they announced the Mighty Nein animated series during like the 3rd season, somewhere around there, that they were going to do the Mighty Nein animated show. And it's finally here. And I can't wait to get into all of this. So we're going to do this a certain way when I record these. Because I talk about movies and TV shows and things like that. And this is going to be like, I finally I'm talking about it like a TV show, but I'm also going to end up talking about it from that nerd standpoint of this is what I know. I know all these worlds. But I also know that there are people who don't watch Critical Role that do watch The Legend of Vox Machina and are probably going to watch this. And so I don't want to spoil things that I know about character development and plots that are coming. So for the first part of this, we're just going to treat it like any old show and talk about it in that form. And then we'll start getting more and more into spoilers, and I'll start talking more about that. But I'm still not going to ever talk about what I know about the characters, even in spoiler mode. Okay? Like I said in my short, if you already know, you know. I've already heard one person start to talk about backstory about certain characters, and it's like, shut the fuck up. It's hard enough for people to find, keep spoilers to themselves. It's hard enough, like, other people not spoiling it for you, either word of mouth or online. I love for people to find out organically. If they choose to go look for spoilers themselves, that's on them. But I'm not going to ruin plot points here. What I am going to talk about here are peripheral characters and who they are, but not go all the way in. Just give some explanations as to who some people are. Now, let's just get into the review of the actual show. What do I think of this as a show? And I mean, right from jump, The Legend of Vox Machina has a lot of serious and dark stuff happening. But our characters, as much as we know that they have different issues, right? Vex and Vex have issues. Percy's got issues. You know what I'm saying? Keelit's got her mission and all the baggage that comes with her. But there's a tone to it that is the classic adventuring story. that literally is like the middle part of this that finished last year is literally fighting a bunch of dragons. So the dragon and Dungeons and Dragons, check. And they've been in plenty of dungeons on that show. So it really is that classic story. I mean, Percy's nonetheless like is very cool as well. But and I mean, where they're gonna go with the rest of Vox Machina, get ready for like some of the most like the way Vox Machina, the actual play ends, is like the perfect end to a campaign because it kind of hits all the big beats. Campaign 3 had this through line that was all about the Ruidus Moon and everything that Matt had created up until that point. Now we're in campaign 4 with a whole new world, a whole new DM. But campaign 2 was special to me because they were allowed to do a lot of more just see how things went. There was things that were happening, but it was a lot more just see where it goes, let the characters develop and where they want to take it. Where do the players want to take it more than where Matt was going to take it? And I think that it was probably cool for Matt too to be able to take what they were giving him and say, I'm going to structure some plots around these things and choices that they're making. And with these characters, you get some of the darkest stories and things that are maybe not right out front, like Jester's story herself. Like, look at how bright and shiny and happy she is. But like when she talks about things in her life, there's like some like shit that like as a little tiefling, you know, she's seen some stuff and the whole thing with the traveler that they haven't even touched on yet. So for people who haven't gotten that, she mentions the traveler in like the trailer. But like Caleb, he's like, I guess I don't want to get far into this, but everybody in this has got something going on in their past, except for maybe, yeah, well, he's not, yeah, we won't bring all that up. See, I'm trying to be careful here with everything because I do want you guys to like that haven't seen the actual play and want things to happen organically. So this first 45 minutes, what a 45 minutes. What we get and what I really like about this is we get a lot of lore up front. Things that even people that watch the actual play from the beginning, from episode 1 of campaign 2, there are things in here that we didn't get. This is a lot of like session 0 stuff. This is stuff that you can find in like maybe the Mighty Nine Origins comic book. This is stuff that Matt probably wrote down himself that created this, you know, backstory for a lot of these characters. There's things that are mentioned in campaign 2 that we're getting to see here fully fleshed out. And that is like right up front with this beacon that they have. One of the things I want to bring up right off the bat for anybody, and again, spoilers this is for people who've seen the episode, by the way. So full spoilers for the episode. One of the first things I thought of was when I heard the music in this big scene, this like ritual, this ceremony that's going on. That music, man, sounded so much like the like music from Akira. Like just big and haunting and scary. Like something's going on here. And I was loving it. And it took me a minute to realize what they were doing. It took me a lot to realize, and that's why it took me so many viewings. It was like, okay, what are they showing me right now? What is this? This is not something we saw before. But it was awesome, and it's scary. What a way to set the tone for this show, where you're seeing what is like a ritual sacrifice between two people. You know, the two people in this scene, they clearly care about each other, but one is going to sacrifice the other, and they brutally bring down a knife and kill the other person. So for anybody that's out there looking at, you know, watching my, you know, the Vox Machina show, this starts with a really big, like, because the first episode of Vox Machina, right, ends with a whole, like, the beginning part is there's brutal death right there at the beginning, but it's the tone. It's like, oh, ha, 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 like the adventuring party just gets massacred. But there's a tone to it that makes you go, it's kind of funny in a way, if you look at it like that, you know. There's nothing funny to be found in this. This is shit is going down. And when you see this person's, like, I guess you would, like, it's not too big a leap to call it like something is leaving their body and going into this beacon. What that means is a mystery that is going to be found out as we watch this show. I'm not going to spoil it here yet. We are going to talk about this later in the spoiler heavy portion of this video. So on down the line, we're going to talk about this. But for those of you up front, that's all you know is this person, something inside this person went inside that thing. And that guy's like, can't wait to see who you become. What the hell does that mean, right? And through this ritual, this scary, creepy thing, they're like, take this beacon, get it out of here, put it in the vault, right? So whatever's happened is important to these people. And these people are from the Kryn dynasty, one of the factions in Wildmount, a continent in Exandria that is, we saw a little of in Legend of Vox Machina, which that took place in like Iman, and I can't believe the continent is escaping me. But we get the ritual of them putting it in the vault. This is a very secure thing. This shows how important it is. And immediately it goes wrong. Somebody's there to steal it. They start killing the Kryn soldiers left and right as they are stealing this thing. Who the hell are these people with the armbands, with the magic armbands, and doing crazy spellcraft that you haven't seen? Because in the Legend of Vox Machina, right, there were mages, but there were no wizards on the team. There were you had a cleric, you had a barbarian, and again, very classic stuff. You had a rogue, a ranger, a cleric, a barbarian, a bard, a druid, and then the new gunsmith, right? Fighter class. But there's no wizards. So we're seeing spellcraft in this. We're seeing how people make magic. This is another cool thing that we're going to see a lot of. One of the cool things about campaign 2 was how magic was done. It's not, people like in Harry Potter who whip out a wand and just say the right thing and, with the right meaning and feeling behind it, No, this takes ingredients. You're seeing them with things in their hands, and then they're casting and saying, preparing things on the fly as they are stealing this thing and running for their lives out of this place. But we don't know at this point who any of these people are, just that they're ripping these people off. And this action sequence, and again, the animators get to have a field day here. I love how it's the same animation, but they can make it look completely like fresh and new with these new settings, these new powers, these new characters, all of it. And as these people go and they run, right, and they get away, they do some crazy magic to teleport themselves out without teleporting. It's like they crack open like a whole area to go from one place to another and get away. Or do they? And this is where, things come to a head in this little place called Rockmount, I believe. And it turns out that the soldiers are there. Like, there's something fishy going on here. Was this a surprise or not? How were these people there, ready for them, knowing where they were going to be when we have this great big event happen, right? The guy looks into the beacon and then something happens and then we cut away. And this is where we're first introduced to Liam O'Brien. Well, actually, that is not, I believe, where we start. Let me make sure I'm on the right track here. Okay, yeah, all right. So I do have my notes. I have notes. I have note cards, like all this. Plus, I have like a whole bunch of stuff written on this paper too. So I'm just trying to keep everything. Welcome to the channel. So this is where we're introduced to Caleb Widogast, played by Liam O'Brien. Caleb Widogast, I have a hard time going back and forth between Not and Caleb Widogast as my favorites. And I even have a hard time having Bo in there. So this episode, as far as the Mighty Nine goes, is focused on these three characters, Bo, Caleb, and Not. And it makes sense because this was not meant to drop by itself, right? When it drops officially, it's going to be 1, 2, and 3, which means we're going to get introduced to the rest of the Mighty Nine over these 3 episodes. And I feel like it's going to end in a big old thing as we jump off for episode 4 into the grander adventures. So these first 3 episodes will be like, here's who these characters are, and this is the stakes in the background, and then off we go after we become a group. But so far, these are the 3 they're focusing on, and it just so happens to be my 3 favorite characters in the campaign. Okay, so Caleb's a down and dirty, in the literal shit wizard, down on his luck, and we meet Not, the goblin girl, played by Sam Riegel, who I can't believe how awesome he is. And because I watched it multiple times, I'm completely already like come to terms that Not in the show doesn't sound like Sam at the table. It only took me the first time I saw it, it was a little jarring, but as soon as I watched it the second time, got the vibe from it, and I'm like, it's still Sam. It's still the same beats. It just sounds a little different because this isn't the table. And they can say that about basically this entire show, is that they have to make a show. This isn't, if they did it like it was exactly at the table, we'd be here for like 10 years making episodes about all this, all the little adventures that they go on, all the little details. We'd be here forever doing all this. So you have to make a show. That's why, they get to the gist of like showing us the lore and the beacon and the stakes that are going on, because at the table, it takes a long time for them to form as a group and go on adventures and start to form a plot around what is happening. In a show, you can't do that. And if you did, it would be like rambling and people would lose interest going, what is going on in this show? Why are we watching this? What is the point? What are the stakes? So you have to start that quickly and you have to get that out there, which is, again, why I said it's so great that they're giving us a lot of the lore up front, loaded up front, so that we are learning as we go, but we know that there are serious stakes here and somehow our characters are going to get involved. And how they get involved is, well, we're still not there yet, right? This is just getting to know these 3 characters. And so you meet Caleb, down on his luck wizard, trying to break into some place, scared of the dog noises, and he gets his pouch of ingredients stolen by Not, the goblin girl. And again, Sam's playing of this is fantastic. Sam and Liam and Marisha, respectively, playing Beauregard, they kill it in this. And this is basically how Caleb and Not meet. Now, this isn't 100% accurate either. There's a bunch of little details in this that aren't 100% accurate, but it still works. In fact, when we get into full spoilers, we'll talk about like some of the things that they changed. But it's really not important how they meet in this. It's not like the most like, oh my God, if it's not this, then I don't accept it. It's still pretty much the same gist. And again, we'll get into it in spoilers. So Caleb and Not meet over the loss of Not stealing his pouch of ingredients. We get to see how fast Not is, this little goblin girl with her little mask, so that she can pretend to pass as like a halfling around all these people. We also get right up front, Not's a drinker. Not likes to knock them back. In fact, she's spending a lot of time boozing it up. And it seems like it's out of like almost desperation and alcoholism. Like this little tiny goblin girl can put it away. But why? Like, is it just because goblins like to drink or something? We'll find out. And that's pretty much their story in this, as far as like not real seeing that Caleb is a wanted person, finds out pretty easily, and not is want needs. It seems like in this, her main focus is to never be able to stop drinking. And if she can turn in Caleb Widogast, who's wanted, well, that would, with like 100,000 gold, I think it was, I think she'd be able to drink herself to death. And I'm gonna just stay with Caleb and them to make it a little like more streamlined, because this is gonna be a long video. I don't care. So Caleb is desperate and sad, very sad. And pathetic at this point. He smells like shit. He's lost his magic. He wants ingredients. He wants revenge. He's lost things and he's trying to get them back. And Not is kind of an opportunist, right? She's sticking around, helping him out. I love she's going to help him get his ingredients if he helps her fill up the flask. Simple as that, really. And how they get all into that, like, again, in their little first encounter, we see how fast Not is. And that's very accurate to the game. Not is very fast, but also likes to stay in the shadows. So Not's not the kind of character who wants to be seen by a lot of people. And by the end of their little journey in this episode, Not's kind of made up her mind that she's gonna, and I love that they don't need to tell us this, that she's gonna turn Caleb in for the money. But she changes her mind when, after they get some ingredients together, Caleb does magic in front of Not. And this is where we get to see Caleb for the first time in the show summon his familiar. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about this, because you can tell from the episode. He says, "Hello again, old friend." So wizards can have familiars, something, a creature that they can summon up. Some of them, anyway. And you can tell that there's history there, that there's love here, that there's something, like Caleb misses this being. But it fades. It's not a strong enough spell. The ingredients aren't all there to make it last as long as he wants. Like a lot of spells that they talk about in D&D, right? Is how long you can cast something, but how long does it stay up, right? Some can last till a long rest. Some can only last for 10 minutes. Some can only last for a minute. And so the spell isn't strong enough. And this cat disappears, and it's too much for Caleb to bear in this moment. And is about to knock Caleb out and take him in, turn him in for the money. After seeing the magic, Not changes her mind. Why'd she do that? Right? Because she seems fascinated by magic, right? Can you do more? And this is where they decide to team up. I can help you break in and steal and get your magic back. You can help keep me in booze. But the way Not's talking, and there's a key word in here, she's like, "How did you lose your magic? Were you cursed?" And so there's more going on in behind here that they're even telling us to look for. They're just not outright telling us. So if you can pay attention and start looking at the little details of what's going on in the story, you start to see that Not wants something too. And it's not just booze. And so to get what she wants, she's now found somebody who can do magic. Maybe that magic could help her somehow. So it's in her best interest, in her mind, to stick around with this down and out wizard until they can come up with answers for both of them. And I love how this starts because, I mean, in the campaign, and I'll just tell this spoiler is that they, it feels like they've been together for a little bit and they already feel close. And where this bond and connection goes for the rest of the campaign, the rest of the show is going to be very, very fun for everybody to watch. Now, let's switch over to Beauregard. But in order to get to Beauregard, we have to talk about the evil Trent Ickathon, played by Mark Strong in this, right? This guy, and Mark Strong is doing a fantastic voice job here because Mark Strong has a very distinct voice, right? But he's doing something different here, and I am here for it. In fact, like in a minute here, we'll talk about somebody else who's doing a really different kind of job with their voice. But Trent Ickathon is sitting there with his little finger butane lighter, which is fucking great and scary as hell, experimenting on someone. In this case, it's a bugbear, another creature in D&D. And talking about fear centers. This is a really creepy scene because this is at like a school. All right. This is the Cerberus Assembly where they teach people things. And in this case, he is teaching how to remove fear because if you aren't afraid of death anymore, you're a greater asset. You can do more if you're not afraid. You can just capable of anything. This is a scary as hell scene. And even if it's animated, cutting the guy open and you don't feel a thing, right? It's pretty scary. This guy is no joke. And he's the Archmage of Civil Influence for the Dwendalian Empire, which is King Dwendal's ruling. And he is summoned before them to answer for, hey, we're being accused of stealing this beacon. So boom, immediately we now have connections to what happened at the beginning, that these people are being accused of being the ones who stole this beacon from the Kryn dynasty. And we meet the Bright Queen of the Kryn dynasty, voiced by Lucy Liu, who, again, Lucy Liu has a very distinctive voice. And again, in this, it's kind of unrecognizable how good and deep she takes this role. And the voice direction in this, because look, Liam and all of them have been living with these characters forever. It's been a long time. It's been a while. And so they might need a lot less direction voice-wise, except for, I think everybody appreciates a little direction in the booth when they're doing something like this. But whatever direction they're getting, all these people that are guesting on this show, it's fantastic because they're creating new characters and you would not know that these are necessarily the actors playing them. But the Bright Queen from the Kryn dynasty is saying, like, look, we think you got this. This means war. And we find out that the Dwendalians, they don't know what she's talking about. Right? They're like, why would we do this? We don't want to start a war. We're trying to live in peace, and this just starts shit that we don't want. That's when Trent Ickathon, this is where he comes in, right? Because somebody comes in. This character's name is Owelia. She's a halfling, and she works for Trent. She's one of his students. And we can tell, like, by the conversations, by the different people on the Dwendalian Council, that not everybody there trusts Trent Ickathon and his intentions. Because whoever has this beacon is trying to start a war. If they don't have it, right? They say they don't have it, and they mean it. Then who does have it? And who would benefit, and why would they benefit from starting a war between these two places? We also are introduced to Archmage Duragna, who is a very important character in campaign 2. But they are fleshing this character out. In fact, they're fleshing out a lot of these people already. They're getting more screen time than they did get at the table, really, except for maybe Trent, who is a member of the Cerberus Assembly. And we'll get, like, as it goes on, we'll learn more and more about the Cerberus Assembly, because there's not just the Cerberus Assembly we got to talk about. We've got the Cobalt Soul, who are like, the Cerberus Assembly is a bunch of magic training, and what's the Cobalt Soul? They're kind of like these like monk cops that we're about to get into. But Archmage Duragna, she works for them. She's in it. Like, we don't know how bad these people are, or you know what I mean? Is it all of them, or is it just like the Dwendalian? Like, no government is all like call it like North Korea, right? Like, where it's just like all oppressive. But there are fragments in a lot of governments, including, here in America, right, that are doing things that are So even though Archmage Duragna doesn't trust Trent Ickathon, that doesn't mean that she's a great person. It just means that one bad person might not like another bad person. But we don't have all of that information yet. Just that she's definitely eyeballing Trent for good reason. Which leads us to Beauregard. I set all this up. They were setting all this up to suddenly cut to Beauregard in a detective mode. Bo. I've not really seen Bo in this light. When we are introduced to her in campaign 2, she is already with Jester and Ford and Molly. And she's with Jester and Ford. So we don't get to see any of this in campaign 2, where she's out with the Cobalt Soul, learning and investigating what happened to that village in Rockmount, where the big explosion went. And where the big explosion went, right, is there's a bunch of dead horses and signs of struggles, trying to figure out what happened here exactly. And this is where we get, like, Beauregard is basically like Batman here. Like, she's kind of like looking at the evidence, scanning it, and figuring it out like a really good detective of, okay, these tracks here mean this and this and this. While she's fighting with the guy, Rosamir, who's just not liking her at all. But she's playing it very serious at first. And that was also a big change for me for a second. I was like, why is Bo being so professional? Because Beauregard Lionette is a lot of things. And she's a great monk. She's the reason why the monk has become like one of my favorite classes. And when I played it in Baldur's Gate 3, I was in heaven. Play as look, folks. If you want to play D&D or Baldur's Gate 3, be a monk. All right? Be a fucking monk. You will not regret it. But she's playing the detective here. Sees all the things that, wait a minute, whatever happened here, these people didn't even get past the gate. So what happened? Well, we know, the audience knows, right, that the guy named what's his name, Dane, he looked into the beacon. I accidentally pressed pause on myself. So he looks into the beacon and says, "Oh God!" And that's when this big event, this like flash happens, and we saw the horses and everything go. Whoosh. The decomposition though doesn't add up. It's like the decomposition sped up because they're there fast investigating this. So it doesn't make sense. And it looks like everything happened in this one spot where time sped up. And Bo finds these 2 green like crystals, gem-like things that don't fit. So she goes back to the Cobalt Soul to report to Xenoth about what they found. And Xenoth is voiced again Now, this one's more standard. Jonathan Frakes from Star Trek The Next Generation is playing it pretty Jonathan Frakesy, which is fine. Like the character is a monk, and he's just there as the one in charge, the kind of mentor to Beauregard, the one who brought her into the Cobalt Soul. And there's at first there's like kind of this like playful, like he knows like that Beauregard's a certain way and he knows how to deal with her. He's not mad at her like Rosemary is. Except, she's very brash, and this is where Beau comes out. This is where the Beauregard lionette comes out. At the end of the last scene, too, where she tells Rosemary where to go, right? That is Beauregard. The fuck you, I don't give a shit monk that we all know and love. We even get the classic line, sleeves are bullshit, that Marisha even has a t-shirt for, because sleeves are bullshit. That, at least to Marisha, they are. So she's told basically to shut it down. Like, you don't know what you're talking about. You have no evidence. She's just, she's saying, like, what this looks like, you're just blaming people because of who they are, which is racism, right? Xena does not like this. She gets told off and she storms away, but she follows him. She follows Xenoth because she is not happy with where she's being put in her place and told, like, he says to her, you're acting like you're the only person who can do this. She's like a teenager that way, right? Telling somebody, you can't do this. I'm going to do the thing. So she follows him to like just a regular place, a little shop. She goes in, knocks out the old lady. If she even is an old lady, this could be a glamour she has on. Gets inside there and sees that Xenoth is meeting with a bunch of, like, I think they're dwarves or halflings, who are there creating the green stuff that she had. And that stuff amplifies magic. And it's used with residuum, which I do believe is, it's not, I don't think is it the same stuff that's in Percy's at Whitestone? I can't remember. I don't know why I can't remember. So many details that I'm trying to remember right off the top of my head, folks. But he's making that stuff. They're making it there, and Xenoth knows. And he leaves, and this is where he talks to Oelia and says, Beauregard's not going to be a problem. Don't worry about it. I got things under control, blah, blah, blah. She follows Oelia, and this is where we see who she is, right? And she's a fighter too. And this is a great, fast, action-packed fight because Beauregard is super confident. Pop, man. She is ready to go. But she is also, like, let's call it like she's like level 2. Maybe even level 1 for the game, right? Maybe level 2. And by those means, it means she has less health points and stats, and she could get killed real easy. But it's a show, so they kind of just do it with little cuts. And she almost gets taken out by this person. And then poison gas, she did a spell around her. She didn't even notice, and she gets knocked out by a gas cloud of poison and wakes up to another character that we were introduced to a little bit earlier with Xenoth, which is Dairon, played by Ming-Na Wen, who is also just being Ming-Na Wen, but Ming-Na Wen is a seasoned voice actor and kick-ass Agent May from Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And somehow I worked it back in. And I worked that back in for anybody who knows my channel and for my friends who were probably waiting for me to mention Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. when I mentioned Ming-Na Wen. So that one was for you guys. But she is an expositor, basically a spy for the Cobalt Soul. And she's telling her that you are very, very lucky because you just faced a Volstrucker, which is for the Dwendalians their version of basically an expositor, except an assassin and a spy. And they're kind of like the boogeymen. They don't technically, nobody really can prove their existence, but she just fought one and lived. And she had the same kind of symbols on her arm, the little bands, that the people who stole the beacon at the beginning had. And we saw her with Trent Ickathon. So, by process of elimination, who has the beacon? If I have to tell you. But Beauregard gives the skinny to Dairon, sorry, gets the stunning strike done on her. And again, I know everybody else was like freaking out. Oh my God, stunning strike. All the little details in this are fantastic. And I'm not going to nail all of them because it's just not as important. It's just really, really cool. And we'll get to see plenty of that when Bo fights herself. Not herself, but fights herself. And this is where they basically start to team up. And in the game, we know that Dairon, the actual play, was kind of like her new mentor. Like she takes over for Xenos and wants to train her as an expositor, and without basically giving anything away to Xenos, that this is to find out things about the Cerberus assembly and the beacon and all of that. So Bo has her own like mission, and she's feeling bad because, again, there's something in her past, and it's brought up a couple of times here where it has to do with Bo's dad and why she's at the Cobalt Soul in the first place, and that she was shipped there. Why was her family shipping her there? And why is it because she was shipped there, Xenoth is like, I'd like to get rid of her, but I can't. So there's even more stuff going on there. And we haven't talked about that. We're not going to. We're going to wait for it to come up in the show. So because Beauregard is a nobody, as Dairon puts it, and Bo puts it, they'll never see her coming. And so that is pretty much how the first episode ends, outside of more stuff from Trent Ickathon, who is back to talking with the people who stole the beacon. So, I mean, here we are. I don't have to say it. They're all in the same room now. Except Dane, who is the one who looked at the beacon, is all kinds of messed up. It looks like part of his body aged really fast. And they are now trying to have damage control done. And unfortunately for Dane, he is a sacrifice and is killed by Trent Ickathon, who earlier, also after everybody left, like gave the bugbear back his pain senses. That was Trent's not a great guy, everybody. And Dane dies, and the same thing happens to his little essence and goes inside the beacon. So we now know so the one at the beginning, the person who was stabbed ritually, that was done on purpose, right? And it happened. This, he didn't die for them. He just died, and he still went inside that thing. Now we're going to get to that in like the full spoilers, so that, and that'll be for people who, like, I can't stop people who haven't watched everything from watching it, but I'm telling you, do yourself a favor and stop watching when I get to the spoiler part, and then come back when you learn some more stuff, or not, whatever. I'm giving you a warning. But he's now inside that thing. But the very last thing that we get is we're introduced to a very big, like very goth-looking barbarian, voiced by Ashley Johnson, which we don't find out until the very last moment when she actually talks. Yasha doesn't say much. She doesn't have to, because her actions speak pretty loudly. And she's just cutting through people left and right. And we got a little symbol on the back of her neck. And she wants to know who's got the beacon. And that's where we leave off for episode 1. So look, that was in 45 minutes, and I couldn't be happier that they are making these longer episodes. And I couldn't even be more happier when I found out that they're not dropping 3 episodes at a time like they do with Vox Machina. They're doing the 3 up front, which I still wish they'd have just dropped one at a time, but whatever. They seem to think that nobody will come back and watch. I don't understand. You would get them people if you have 2 more, like, okay. So if there's 8 episodes, right, you would have people for 2 months. Those are 2 months where people who might want to cancel their service would stick around. But I can't keep, if they won't take the free advice, I don't know what to do. But at least from here on out, after this week, 1 episode at a time, which means we get 5 weeks to talk about each episode. Now, we will be back talking about this later on in the week to finish 2 and 3. And look, folks, these are going to be long probably because I just love talking about this and giving all the extra details. So if you want to listen to somebody just talk for 5 minutes about this, go for it. I'm doing this because I have fun doing this and giving all the extra details, which we're going to get into right now. So Mighty Nein, episode 1, rocked my socks off, and it is exceeded all of my expectations of what I thought it could be and more. And I cannot wait to talk about more of these and get into like all the crazy details that I remember and know. And even I don't know where they're going to go with different changes. So speaking of changes and other things, we're going to get into the spoiler part of this video now. So get ready, folks. So you've been warned in 3, 2, 1. Spoiler talk comes right now. I mean, I spoiled the episode, but it's, again, that's regular stuff. We're talking about the other stuff. So here we go. So the first thing, I guess, would be a change, right? Is that the theft of the beacon is a change from campaign 2. The members of the Cerberus Assembly are not the ones who steal the beacon. They are stolen by a character named Essek, who is one of the most popular NPCs in Critical Role history. His name gets brought up, and people go, kind of like when they bring up Sean Gilmore or Kima or Lady Allura. People freak out when they see these characters brought up. And this guy's no different. He's the one who steals it. And for anybody who's watched campaign 2, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. But this is fun for all of us that did see it. And I think it's really interesting, though, to set it up that it's Astrid that did this. That's part of this. And if you know, and I'll be vague about this because if you know, you know. But Astrid's a member of the Cerberus Assembly, and she works for Trent Ikathon. And having her be the person who stole the beacon is pretty cool because it gives more depth to her character, more for the character to do, more for the character to want maybe redemption for. So that's kind of like that's the first big thing that I noticed was that was a change. Now, for those out there that are watching this and want to understand some more things, especially like the Luxon beacon itself, right? In the lore, in Dungeons and Dragons, it's a legendary rare item. It's considered a wondrous item. And as we know from campaign 2, when you look inside the beacon for about a minute, you get luck added to you as a stat, like a +1 to luck, and it lasts basically for a day, I think. And it basically is a fragment of possibility, kind of like the title of the episode called A Mote of Possibility. Now, if you don't I think that's a really interesting that they called it that because it doesn't explain the title at all. Nothing in the episode really tells you what a mote of possibility even is or how you would connect it to somebody looking inside the beacon. It's for the people who know. Like I said, if you know, you know. But again, and this is for people who've come back after and watching some of this. So the ritual at the beginning is what is called like a consecuted death. Purposely doing it within range of the beacon. It's supposed to be like if you die within 100 miles, your soul is ensnared by the beacon and then reincarnated in a random humanoid baby within 100 miles. It's crazy. Now, what's consecuted, right? It's purposely sacrificed to be reborn, and that when you are reborn into a humanoid baby, when you reach adolescence, you start to begin to reform your memories and remember who you are. And essentially, somebody who's undergone this could continually come back and basically be immortal and live all kinds of lives. And the only way to die is if you're with, like die would be if you're not within range of a beacon, and then you're done. And from the studying of the beacons that the Kryn have, and I think they had up to 4 at one point. When they studied it, they learned dunamancy. They figured out which focuses on manipulation of entropy, gravity, and time. So time is the key one here. When the blast went off and time was affected, it affected Dane, it affected the horses, it affected the people there, I think it even affected like the rot of like some of the like buildings and stuff that went down. So whatever happened there, dunamancy was involved. It's even said, and then it also that if you're born within range of a beacon, you could have innate dunamancy abilities basically built into you, kind of like a mutant, right? Where you just have the powers. You don't need magic. You are just there with them. It's kind of crazy. So this thing is super, super powerful. The Cerberus Assembly experimented to create dunamancy fields to slow and speed up time. Again, everybody's trying to get these, not just like people that can turn into like live on and gain even more knowledge and power, but there's magical powers that are tied to what only a beacon can do, and what you can do with those powers. Think what you can do with time and gravity and entropy. Some really powerful fucking shit. And this is where we talk, where I have like the extra information. Okay, so about the group of people that stole this. They're the Volstruckers. They're the assassins. These are people trained by the Cerberus Assembly to be their assassins. And again, they're like the boogeymen. People don't know who they are, can prove who they are. I think it's interesting that Owelia is getting a lot more screen time. She basically is just almost a non-speaking NPC, and she's getting a lot more to do. Again, we're getting tons more backstory in this than we did before. For everybody else that knows like campaign 2, right? Knott's drinking problems are just gonna get worse. I can't wait to, and okay, Frumpkin. We get introduced to Frumpkin in this. The cat is Frumpkin, and it was really cool that they did this, and it was sad. It was super sad that poor Caleb doesn't have any magic to keep his friend around. I thought that was great. The poison gas I thought was fun, because what you know about Beauregard later on is she's like, I think she's immune to poison. So like, I think this event is kind of interesting. Is like, at some point she's never gonna have, like, you could drop an atomic bomb made of only poison and Beauregard wouldn't be affected by it. Again, like I said, this is a lot of like Cerberus Assembly stuff. So Trent Ickathon, big bad motherfucker, is trying to manipulate this war. to happen for his own gains. Vestaragna. Oh my God, I was so happy to see them put Vestaragna, or Lady Vestaragna in here, knowing what we know about where all that story goes and fleshing that out. Because again, she's not everywhere in this. So we get to see all this. I mean, we got the Bright Queen right up front. We got the Dwendalian Empire right up front. So all these things that we talk about and like are shown in the background, like when they go to meet the Kryn dynasty for the first time, right? All these things, like now we can see like really their inner workings and things like that. That I just think is so cool, and all these extra details. And this is just episode 1. So man, folks, we have got some fun ahead of us. And so I'm going to finally leave it and shut my mouth here. And like I said, the spoiler section wasn't that big a deal. I didn't get into major character development stuff, just some added extra stuff for anybody that after watching this and learning more, we can finally talk about some things. So I can't wait to talk about episodes 2 and 3. So don't forget to hit like, subscribe, hit the bell for all notifications, share the video, blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm just a small YouTuber with a full-time job who makes videos when he can. And right now, there's a lot that I want to make videos for. So I am making more time than I probably should to talk about this stuff. So again, I really appreciate anybody who watches this, especially all the way to the end. And, this is something to watch on your drive home, listen to on your drive home, listen to at work, blah, 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 or listen to whenever. So thanks for watching or listening. And we'll see you all on episode 2 and 3 next Thursday, Friday, something along there. And we got campaign 4, episode 7, More Soldiers Table, this coming week too. It's going to be a crazy Critical Role week. It's going to be crazy for Critical Role for a few months, because then Vox Machina starts in 2026, season 4 of Vox Machina. And there's 2 more seasons of that coming. We are living, I mean, as crazy as our world is right now when it comes to D&D and Critical Role content, plus Dispatch, we are being spoiled as hell right now. So in all the terrible things that are going on around us, Critical Role is giving us a little bit of time to enjoy something while we live in the world we live in. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you all in a little while. It's bye. Man, like, I think I've just been talking too long. Have a great night, everybody. I'll see y'all next time. Ba 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 bum. Ba bum 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 bum.